Hello everybody, my name is Brandon. Welcome back to Cinefessions, where we talk all things media. So it is officially week 3 of my Neo-Noirvember series, and I get to talk today about a movie that I have been meaning to watch for so long now. It's ridiculous because it's directed by one of what I consider one of my favorite directors of all time, David Fincher, which, of course, we're talking about 1997's The Game. And oh boy, was this something else. Like, I don't even know what to say about it yet, but yeah, really excited to talk about this one, guys, because this is crazy. Before I even get into it here, let me just point out the Criterion cover just to show you how little I knew about this movie going into it, because clearly I'd never read a synopsis or anything. So looking at this cover, I always thought that this was a guy like running up the side of a building. That's what I always thought this was. So I thought The Game was like a sci-fi film set in like maybe a dystopian type film, like that type of future, and they were playing this whatever this game was. But nope, that's not a person running up the side of the building. It always gave me like Tron vibes too, because I thought his feet were like making lights as he was running up the building. That's what was in my head, which is just so absurd if you know what this movie is about. And so yes, I was very wrong. I had no clue what I was getting into, and honestly, that's the best way to watch this. I would say, like, it was, I don't know. I don't want to say mind-blowing, but it was mind-blowing. Like, it was crazy. And so, I don't know, guys. Let's just talk about this one. So, if you guys have been enjoying this Neo-Noirvember, please give it a like down below. That really does help me out. But with that said, let's not waste any more time here at all. Let's dive right into week 3 of Neo-Noirvember, where I can talk about David Fincher's The Game from 1997. So The Game comes early on in Fincher's filmography, but it's not his first. Obviously, many people know Fincher's background, but he has a very strong background in music videos. But his first feature-length film was Alien 3, which, in my opinion, is one underrated film. Like, I really enjoy Alien 3. And then he goes on to make 7, which is unarguably a masterpiece. From 7, he does The Game, and then after The Game, he does Fight Club, and then Panic Room is next, and then Zodiac after that, like, and then Curious Case of Benjamin Button comes after that. Just the stretch of films he has there, and of course Social Network in 2010. Like, it's just an amazing filmography, and that's why I say he's one of my favorites. So I haven't seen The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. That's one of the other, I think that's the only other one in his filmography at this point that I haven't seen, but I needed to see this one. Now I can finally say I've seen this one. And so yeah, The Game is nestled in between two just masterpieces, with 7 coming before it and Fight Club coming after it. And so this one is kind of one that I felt was maybe talked about a little bit less than those other films, just because those other ones are just like pop culture phenomenons, really, especially, you know, at my age growing up, they were just so popular. And so The Game always eluded me, and that's why, you know, I talked about at the intro here, I had no idea what this was about, but honestly, I think that worked in my benefit. So this is not a science fiction film. It's not dystopian at all. This is very much rooted in reality in San Francisco in, you know, mid-90s. We are following Michael Douglas's character. He is this ultra rich, kind of like stupid rich investment banker. His father was ultra rich before him, and so basically he's kind of, you know, built on that wealth a little bit as the years have gone on. But he is like a very lonely man, and I guess I'll talk about that in a little bit, but just going through the synopsis here. So it's his birthday when we open up. It is his 48th birthday, and he ends up meeting his brother, who is played by Sean Penn. And there is clearly, they don't have the strongest relationship. There's clearly like a black sheep thing going on here with Sean Penn's character. And so anyway, Sean Penn's character gives him this like random gift card for, it's called CSR, and he doesn't really explain what it is. He just says it's a game and it'll change your life like it did his. And so he decides that, you know what, let's give this a shot. It happens to be in this building I'm in right now, so let's go see what it's all about. And he decides to try to apply to play the game. And that's really all you need to know going into this, and it takes off from there. And just the way that Fincher does some of these things are amazing. But that's the synopsis. So now let's talk about some things I really enjoyed about this one. Something I'm noticing about neo-noir, at least with the films I'm watching for Neo-Noirvember, is that location plays a pretty important role in all of these films. So, week 1, we talked about Blowout, where it was in Philadelphia. Week 2 was in Texas, the South, and it was sticky. And that was a major, felt like a major contributing factor to things that were going on in that movie. And then here in week 3 with the game, we have San Francisco. And San Francisco plays another big role in what's going on in this film, just in terms of the cinematography of this, or the filming of this movie. And boy, it is just so beautiful. That mid-90s San Francisco, they play it up so well. Now, I have no idea where this was actually filmed, but I believe it was on location in the city. At least, parts of it were on location, because at one point there's like the Bay Bridge in the background on just some amazing shots. It's just different scenes like that really stood out to me. The architecture of San Francisco, I feel like is, it's so unique, and it stands out so much that when you see him walking around the streets, whether it's at night or in the daytime, it's fun to watch. I love when the city plays a role in these films, and for all 3 weeks now, that's what's been happening. And so I really enjoy that aspect of it. And at one point, we actually moved from San Francisco down to, I don't know what city it was, but it was somewhere down in Mexico. And again, it just felt so important. The way they film it, I guess, is what made it feel important, with, Michael Douglas's character just being so small in this giant shot with these, big tall buildings that just look so much like they are from Mexico. It was just fascinating, and I love that aspect of it. When the city plays a role, I love it, and they do it really well in the game. Along with Michael Douglas and Sean Penn, you also have our female lead, played by Deborah Kara Unger. And admittedly, I didn't really recognize her, but she has been in a number of films I've seen. She's been in both the Silent Hill movies, 13 from back when. She was in White Noise as well. So I have seen her in a few other things, but for whatever reason, I just didn't recognize her. But she is so good in this. Like, there's this small moment where she's like kind of dragged into this story unknowingly or unwillingly, I guess, as the story plays out for us. And it's just like this one small moment where she's like flirting with Michael Douglas's character that I was just like, oh, I'm smitten right now. Like, I just fell in love with that character. The way she was playing that role was just so great. And that continues throughout the entire film. Like, there's just so much to her character and the movie itself that, like, I don't want to give anything away, so I'm going to leave it there. But I really enjoyed her character as we went through this. She plays it excellently. And then Sean Penn just he shows so much range of emotion here. He's like the ne'er-do-well, as it says on the back of the box here. And he does such a great job as kind of that, like, smarmy kind of, I do what I want at the beginning. And then he has like a nervous breakdown at one point. And then it's just the range of emotion he shows is excellent. And he's obviously a great actor. Everyone knows that Sean Penn's a great actor, but man, this is a really good representation of his acting ability. And Michael Douglas is great in this as well, because the movie is like just so dependent on how well he plays this. And at the beginning of the film, it's a surprisingly funny movie at the start of this. And that it's almost a dark humor that plays throughout the entire movie. And he handles it really well. But not only do you get this humor, especially at the start, it's just this overwhelming sense of loneliness, which is another nod to Fincher and his directing. And then the director of photography, the cinematographer, was Harris Savides, I believe is how you would say it. Harris Savides. And that name was familiar to me, and I couldn't remember why. Well, turns out Savides also did Zodiac with Fincher as DP, and Zodiac is one of my favorite films of all time. It is just one of the most, like, that opening shot with the fireworks right before we get our first kill in Zodiac is one of those moments in cinema I will never forget, because it's perfect. It's just beautiful. And so that's why his name was familiar to me, because he, did one of my favorite films. But he does such a great job with this, just making that sense of loneliness. Everything around Michael Douglas's character just is so big, and he feels so small. And then with the dialogue, the way he interacts with people, multiple people wish him a happy birthday. He never acknowledges them as they wish him a happy birthday. He doesn't speak for himself at points. He has his secretary do it, because he's this ultra rich, multi multi-millionaire, probably a billionaire, whatever the case is. And so he just doesn't need to. And so he has other people do it. But it brings this just ultimate sense of sadness to his role and to the film itself in the beginning. And that juxtaposition with the humor, I think, is so interesting. It makes for an interesting dichotomy. And that tonal shifts. I want to talk about tonal shifts now because the acting, superb. Tonal shifts is something that happens so quickly. It would be jarring in another film, and a lesser director wouldn't be able to pull this off. But the way they go from this almost comedy, this dark comedy, to this genuinely creepy thriller. Minutes later, seconds later, one scene happens and it goes to this creepy thriller. Just was amazing to me how well it worked. And then it goes back to a dark comedy again at another point. And then it almost feels like a horror film the way they're doing it, or a thriller. Like, it was just amazing how quickly things shifted based on kind of the information, because Michael Douglas's character is trying to figure out this game that he's playing, like what's real, what's fake, what's going on, what is the game, and the build up. I'm all over the place right now, but the build up to the game, the way they write that is just excellent. We hear other people talk about it, and it's like he overhears them, and so he decides to buy them a drink to hear what they have to say about the game, and they just are so vague that makes you want to play this game as the viewer. It's like, let's get to it. What is this movie what is this game all about? Where is this movie going? And so it just held that rope and kept pulling you in the entire time. At least that was my experience with it. And so, yeah, just the cinematography, the way the direction is able to make those tonal shifts so quickly and make them work still, I think is just so remarkable, especially given that this is in Fincher. He's a young director at this point, but obviously he goes on to make some of the greatest films ever. And so, there's no surprise there shouldn't be any surprise at how well he does with the game. There's one other actor I need to call out because he is so good in this, and his name is James Rebhorn, who the name might not be familiar to you. It's not to me, but his face is. He was in Seinfeld, Independence Day, very well-known character actor, I would say, and oh my God, he's so great in this movie. So up until the point we meet him, we're following Michael Douglas's character pretty much exclusively, and he is just so straight and narrow. Everything is professional. It's just like matter of fact, I guess is the best way to call him. And just this rich businessman. But then we meet Rebhorn's character, who is just 180 degrees opposite. Like, he is so good at being the complete opposite of Douglas's character. And it makes for this amazing juxtaposition. Again, like, I'm going to throw that word out here a lot today, I guess. But, at one point he meets him and he's trying to eat lunch. Like, he has Douglas's character hold his lunch as he grabs the clipboards to take him back to start this interview process for the game. And he's literally eating lunch as he's talking to him, asking him, are you sure you don't want anything? Just all these crazy things. And it is so good. It's like this small thing, but the difference, from going from this straight-laced character to this other character who is just the complete opposite, the way they play off each other, it's just so much fun to watch. And again, it added to that humor, that dark humor a little bit of the beginning of this film. And so I love that. So I had to call out his work in this because he does such a phenomenal job here. Watching this movie was just an experience, I guess, is the best way to say it, because I talked about it a little bit, but those tonal shifts, so you go from almost a dark comedy at the beginning with hints of sadness throughout, into this like genuinely creepy moments, into thrillers, but then in the middle there's almost this comedy of errors that happens. Like, there's this bit where he keeps messing up his shirt, keeps dirtying his shirt, and it just becomes, like I said, a comedy of errors, but it's mixed in with this like noir thriller. And it's, how does this work? I have no idea how it works, but Fincher is damned brilliant for pulling this off, for making it work. And it's just fascinating to watch from start to finish. And like I said, I was just sucked in. I wanted to know first off what the game was. And then once it starts, it's like, wow, this is pretty creepy. Like, it's going lengths that you wouldn't expect it to go. And then as it continues, it gets even darker, even larger. And then at the end, it's like, what did I just watch? That's what really just blew my mind. It's nuts. It is absolutely crazy, but somehow Fincher pulls it all together to make it feel like one cohesive universe and one cohesive film. So kudos to him on his amazing direction on this one. I always mention it, but just another reminder, there are no spoilers in these videos. And so I'm going to talk about the climax in incredibly vague terms, just kind of my thoughts about it. This is one of those movies where on the ride to the finish, I was thinking to myself sitting there like, oh my God, I'm watching a new favorite. Like, this has got to be one of my favorite films I've ever seen as I was watching, as building toward the ending. And then the ending happens and it's like, what just happened here? What is going on? Is this a favorite, or did I not like what I just saw at the end? Like, did the ending ruin this? And I don't know. Like, it is just so crazy at the end of this movie. And so it's one of those films where the journey is amazing and the ending might be also, but I have to watch it again. This is a film where I feel like I can watch again and again and pick up more things, much like I talked about last week's film, Blood Simple. It just begs to be watched more than once, especially now that I know where it goes. I can maybe pick up some more things that happen on the journey to the climax, but this is an amazing movie, and I don't want to talk too much about it anymore because I don't want to accidentally give any spoilers, because to me, it's incredibly important that you go into this as blind as possible. And so I've tried to be as vague as I possibly can, which is probably why this review I feel like was just all over the place. But this is one of the twistiest, most insane films I have seen in, if not ever, as far as I can remember right now. Like, it is nuts, and it is so great. You need to see this movie if you haven't, because it's just insane. I'm not going to guarantee you're going to love it because of that weird ending, but I bet it'll make you think, if nothing else. And there's definitely a commentary on class here, just like, what it is to be kind of stupidly rich, where literally the world is at your fingertips. You can get anything done at any time simply because you're filthy rich. There's definitely some commentary on that, but I feel like I need to watch it again to really pick up on what they're doing with that. But this is an amazing movie. You need to see it. I loved it. I was so blown away, like, by the ending, because it was one of those just kind of screws with your mind. And I don't know. It's nuts, but watch it. It's awesome. And so with that kind of rambly review, I am going to give The Game from 1997 4.5 out of 5 stars. So I do want to talk about the Criterion Collection release of this real quick. So I believe, reading the liner notes on this was actually originally released on Laserdisc, and that makes sense because some of the biggest special features in here are behind the scenes footage that was taken specifically for the Criterion Collection release. And of course, this was from 97, so they didn't know anything about Blu-ray coming out, years later. So that was for the Laserdisc special features, is my assumption. But yeah, this is a great looking film. This was restored with the supervision of the cinematographer, and it has 2 5.1 soundtracks on it. The first one is the standard theatrical release that it says it's made to be played loud in a big room, and then there's a second one. It's an alternate 5.1 surround mix optimized for home theater viewing. So that was interesting. I didn't listen to that one. I only listened to the the main soundtrack. And then there's also a commentary, which I'll be honest with you, commentaries are like, I'm not going to sit down for another 2 hours and watch the film again right after I'm done finishing it with the commentary track. And so I didn't listen to the commentary, but it does have Fincher on there. Michael Douglas is on there. I believe the cinematographer is on there as well. But yeah, so if that's something you're into, that's definitely probably something that's worth listening to. But the special features themselves, honestly, were a little bit lesser compared to some of the other ones. Like, what I really like in my special features are interviews with the director, interviews with the actors, and we don't really get that here. We get behind the scenes footage. We get a lot of storyboard footage as well, which I don't really care for that. If you're into the art, that art aspect of it, or it's all in art, but you know what I'm saying, like just the storyboard art aspect of it, then you might enjoy that. But storyboard to film comparisons never really got me interested, and so didn't love those. But the behind the scenes are interesting because there's a lot of really cool shots that they have in this, and so seeing how they do some of these larger than life special effects was pretty cool. But I really would have liked a sit down interview with Fincher. Unfortunately, that's not on here. So of the 3 I've talked about so far, this has my least favorite special features on the release, but I still think it's worth picking up simply because of the movie itself and the commentaries on there. If you're interested in that, the picture quality is excellent and it sounds really good. And so, it is what it is. Take that for what you will. I think this is definitely one that I'm happy to have in my collection from Criterion. All right, so week 3 of Neo-Noirvember is in the books, and another just amazing week. I'm so glad I decided to do Neo-Noirvember because I have watched 3 movies that I've loved in maybe in different ways, but 3 movies that I'm so happy I now can talk about because they were excellent. And so really looking forward to week number 4, where I get to talk about Christopher Nolan's feature film debut with Following. And so that one is another one that I've been waiting a long time to watch, and so really excited to get to that one next week. So watch it during the week if you're keeping up with me, and then we'll talk again on Sunday. But anyway, guys, let me know what your thoughts were on The Game down in the comments below. Is this one of your favorite Fincher films, or is this maybe one of his lesser works? Let me know what you think of this one down there. I always appreciate that support, so thank you guys for leaving those comments. But as always, though, if you guys did enjoy this video, please give it a like down below. That really does help me out. And like I always say, I don't just talk movies, I talk all things media, be it books, movies, video games, graphic novels. If it's media related, I'm interested in it, and if you are too, you might consider subscribing. Alright guys, so that's going to do it for today. I just want to say thank you all so much for watching, and I want to encourage you to consume some media today. I'll catch you next time.